hardcore side-by-side racing.
This thing feels like a video game.
It's a good racing track for fans because everyone's going to race in a group.
3 cars in front of you, 2 behind you, 1 on each side.
Race cars at 220 miles an hour.
It's so high banked, it just feels like, you know, things come at you so quickly. Nothing easy about it.
It's a lot harder than you think.
I think there are guys that have been here for several years and still aren't comfortable.
Pretty daunting for drivers. Once you get a knack for it, it's a lot of fun.
And you're looking at Texas Motor Speedway, just outside Fort Worth, as we're getting ready for the Bombardier Learjet IndyCar 550, as we will go around this 1.5 mile oval 228 times. And there's our Learjet flyover, the plane on the right side of your screen, a Lear 40, the other a Lear 45. And anybody who loves me can buy me one of those for Christmas. Mr. Goodyear?
Not a chance.
Not a chance. Take a look at the IndyCar Series point standings. Top 5, 28 markers between Scott Dixon and Helio Castroneves, Dan Wheldon, Tony Kanaan, and Danica Patrick in 5th place right now, 90 points behind Scott Dixon. Great crowd on hand. Temperature is soaring into the 90s. Track temperature also like 93 degrees. We'll talk more about how the wind's going to affect it, but let's get this show on the road.
And now, race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome back Chip Ganassi as he gives the command.
IndyCar drivers, start your engines!
The engines have come to life. You look into the eyes of many of the drivers as we get ready to send our field here out onto this track at the 1.5-mile Texas Motor Speedway, the great American Speedway. And take a look at our Bombardier starting grid. It'll come across the top of your screen. Scott Dixon, as we've already pointed out, will be on pole. Helio Castroneves right alongside. But look at in row number 2, you'll notice the rookie Hideki Mutoh from Japan. He's on the number 4 spot. Danica Patrick will start in the number 5 position. You'll see the others as they come across in this 28-car field. Let's get some more reports from pit lane. First up is Jackaroo.
Well, Marty, you may be noticing that the pole sitter's teammate is not starting traditionally where you would expect him to start. You see, Dan Wheldon encountered serious problems before qualifying. The primary car that they brought here went up into the corner and across a bump, and the next thing you know, a rear suspension failed. And it sent Dan Wheldon hurtling into the safer barrier, but that was okay until he hit the grass, slipping and sliding down the infield, and that flipped the car over and took care of the other 3 corners of that race car. It was totally destroyed. Wheldon will be driving today with his throttle foot severely bruised, but he went out and qualified, and he has turned only 6 laps in the car that he'll drive here. Now, yesterday they didn't have the full setup in it. I talked to Barry Wanzer, and he said, we've put the full setup in now. So, hey, I'll tell you what, Vince Welch, look for Dan Wheldon to come to the front.
Well, Jack, as far as the Kokov and Vassar team is concerned, and their 2 drivers, Will Power and Oriol Servia, the first 3 races this season, their average starting position was 20th. The last 2 ovals this season, their average starting position has been 9th. Will Power says he had a blast at Indy and last week at Milwaukee, but the 1.5-mile tracks have been tough on him. In the 2 previous 1.5-mile starts this season, Power has completed just 46 laps. I chatted with him before he climbed in the car, and I observed some nervousness from Will Power as he got ready to get onto this high-banked 1.5-mile track. He was concerned about the start and how much respect all the drivers would give one another. Brian Pedigo?
Vince, Danica Patrick and Thomas Scheckter will make up row number 3. Both of these, of course, are drivers who are known for their aggression both on and off the track. Danica is looking for that second win, but one of the drivers trying to stop her tonight will be Thomas Scheckter. He's, of course, felt the highs and lows of Texas Motor Speedway with a win here in '05. And then, of course, there's last year's glove throwing incident. Both of these drivers have what it takes to get to victory lane tonight. It's just a matter of can they keep cool and calm under that Texas heat. Guys?
And there's the tail end. There's where the gloves went sailing. And according to Thomas, I talked to him a few days ago. He said, I got the gloves back and I signed them and gave them to Brian Barnhart, the head man at the Indy Racing League competition, because he didn't find me. Let's talk about what to watch tonight.
Well, I think the biggest thing here is going to be all about traffic, because traffic is going to be thick all the way through this race, and spotters are going to be very important. All the drivers will be listening to the spotters in their ears. Drafting, very important. Not only to get the speed out of the car, but also to get better fuel mileage. And then the last lap, last turn, I think it's going to come down to exactly that for the victory here tonight, Marty.
All right, 28 cars on this track flying at over 215 miles an hour. We talked about the Nationwide Series that was on just before us. 30-mile-an-hour difference between these two. They come out of turn 4. The Bombardier Learjet IndyCar 550 is green.
Outside. Nice job. On your corner.
Trying to go 3 wide, and they managed to make it through turn 2.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. As we ride along with Oriol Servia right now, Helio Castroneves made good on his promise. He said this morning at the hotel, he says, I have a great car. Watch out. Penske is back.
Boy, one car up close to the wall. No harm, no foul. Looked like it was Marco Andretti. The sparks you're seeing there, that's a bump over the tunnels on both the south and north end of the racetrack.
Titanium blocks underneath the car are actually what's hitting the ground and making those sparks. And those titanium blocks will make those sparks until tire pressures start to rise once the tire temperatures come up and the fuel burns off. Very common around here at Texas. Looks great at night.
Thomas Scheckter, as you're on board with Danica Patrick. Scheckter on the high side. Danica's got the preferred low line, and behind those two is John Andretti. Now as they fall back a little bit further, look at this. They're going to try and go 3 wide again. And there's Tony Kanaan, who's had a rough week here at Texas. His car, whoa, and look at the wiggle by Ed Carpenter.
I'll tell you what, your heart rate is now going a mile a minute. Your throat is just so dry because I can't believe I got away with that one.
Great save by Ed. He has been a bit snake bit lately. Had a great car at Milwaukee. Of course, had the crash with the guy that's right on his outside, Marco Andretti.
But you can't slow down. You can't take your foot off. You lose too many positions. So right now, you're keeping your foot on the gas, trying not to put yourself in that dirty air position like he had there, and working with the weight jacker and the roll bar inside the car, those tools which help adjust the handling of the car, trying to make it better inside from the cockpit.
Wheldon is still in the 11th position, one of the stories we were talking about. Meanwhile, up front, it is a Penske sandwich, and the meat in the middle is Scott Dixon, and you're on board with him.
Nice thing for right now, I think, for Scott Dixon, Ryan Briscoe, those guys can save a little bit of fuel. We talked about drafting and maybe getting some speed and also some better fuel mileage out of drafting. Well, right now, Helio Castroneves is the car in front, pushing all the air, will be using up a little bit more fuel than the cars from behind. We'll have to see if that makes a difference here on when the cars have to pit when it comes time for refueling.
Back on board with Scott Dixon.
Watch the Firestone telemetry right now. You can see the 100% throttle, but he was also cruising just a little bit. He's running in a high gear because you're only seeing 9,900, 10,000 RPM. 10,300 is what these engines will run. And you can hear some instructions coming from the pit lane telling him where to set the fuel meter on his steering wheel. They're interested in trying to save fuel, get better fuel mileage.
Take a look. That is Hideki Mutoh and Ryan Briscoe. And Mutoh on the high side is going around Briscoe. Can he make it stick? Going down the back stretch. Here comes Briscoe. They're going to go side by side into 3.
Marty, this is exactly what we anticipated this race would be like. Everybody taking off at the very beginning, trying to run for position, running side by side. They're starting to thin out just a little bit right now. I can tell you, just popped my head looking out the window here. All the fans are standing up. They're loving this show.
On board with Danica Patrick. She started 5th. She still is 5th. Take a look. Here comes Dan Wheldon. Remember, he started a little bit further back. Wheldon on the outside. You're on board with Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's got the high line on Danica, and he's going after it.
Well, when we were on Danica a moment ago, I heard her lift her foot off the throttle. The car's not working as well as she needs it to, and that slowed her speed coming off the turn and allowed Wheldon to get through on the high side. She's seesawing at the wheel. It'll be interesting to see if she's going to end up being able to make some adjustments and get some speed up in that car.
Ryan Hunter-Reay all over Danica. A lot of turbulent air. You can see it with the way his hands are working inside the cockpit. And we have yellow on the track. And in the backstretch, it is the 96 of Mario Dominguez. And we're getting word that he may have spun. So we have our first caution here at lap 11.
I spoke to Mario this morning. He said, I just want to get through this race. I'm getting more comfortable. The team's coming together well in his Visit Mexico City sponsored car. But he said, I just want to get out there and finish and get some experience. Now look at those skid marks. It'll be interesting to see if those are from him, because I don't recall those after practice or qualifying earlier today.
No, it wasn't from Robbie Knievel either.
Yeah, that.
If you missed the very opening of the show, Robbie jumped 21 Hummers successfully tonight. And we were sort of glad of that. We do not have the Dominguez spin, but those are his tracks. He managed to keep it off of the wall, so a lucky break for Mario, as we are to lap 12 now, as we went yellow on lap 11. A total of 228 will be run tonight here at Texas. All right, we're going to get out of here just for a moment. There's your top 5 after 12 laps. Back here at Texas Motor Speedway, you can see that everybody is coming down pit lane. Race leader Helio Castroneves leads the parade. Scott Dixon, we've got our ethanol triple pits. Jack Root, you're up first.
Ryan Briscoe will be the first to hit his pits along with Helio Castroneves, and there you see Scott Dixon come in. Now for Team Penske, no major changes anticipated, neither for Scott Dixon as well. This is just a game where it looks like first off will be Ryan Briscoe. Will lead the field out, he does, followed by Castroneves. A lengthy stop by the 9 car Scott Dixon, and trouble with Dan Wheldon's car as well.
And Danica Patrick also had problems on pit lane. Take a look. She slipped back 2 spots. Oriel Servia picked up 11. We'll find out what they did differently. Dixon dropped 2, and Ryan Briscoe picked up 2 coming out of the pits.
Well, Briscoe also had a problem trying to get out of his pit box because there was equipment from the pit box just in front of him, and the tire didn't seem like it was flat. Now you can see Briscoe in the 6th car entering his pit box, enters perfectly. Service work is going to get done. He doesn't. He gets off just a little bit. Oh, you know something?
It's in the wrong box.
Wrong box. Goes off and hits a tire on the left front. It's going to be interesting to see. That usually is a penalty. As long as you hit any equipment or any people inside the pit lane, you will be assessed a penalty through the IRL.
So they pushed him back out of Wheldon's box,
yeah,
as he was in the wrong box.
He needs to be behind his teammate, I suspect, and in that situation, that's going to cost him dearly.
This is on board.
And boy, you don't see this very often. This is going to be a situation where he won't want to be watching this film at home very often at all. Now, I'm sure he's going to get a penalty for hitting the tire there of the target car.
And of course, Wheldon's crew decked out in the Polaroid colors, so they had the black outfits on. So that would be one of the misleading factors for Ryan, but still a big error for him as he gets the pits wrong. So now he's got to come back through, and we're hearing that he is getting a drive-through penalty. So it's going to put him at the very back of this 28-car field. So a tough break for Briscoe. He's going to have to fight his way back. So now they'll bring him in, and Jack, we'll send it your way again.
Well, under caution, it makes sense. Don't bother with a drive-through. Go ahead and take on tires. Go ahead and add more fuel. Pack it in, because you never know what the end result will be. That's the case for Ryan Briscoe and Roger Penske. Try to change a miscue into a possible positive later down the road.
Did you ever miss your pit like that?
I think probably once in 25 years, and at night in endurance racing, but that's called discombobulation. I knew you'd love that.
That's a Canadian word, folks. All right, Briscoe is getting back out into the formation, and we'll step aside just for a moment, as there's your top 5. After our first round of pit stops, we're still under yellow. ESPN's presentation of the Bombardier Learjet 550 at Texas, brought to you by Bombardier Learjet. Speed is everything. And in part by Firestone, the first name in Indy racing. All right, so we're back here at Texas Motor Speedway. You saw when we went to break, it said Bruno Junqueira in the lead. And you're saying, wait a minute, how'd that happen? Well, Bruno did not pit, so he stayed out. He was the only one who did. And they are not going to go green, as we just got word. We thought we were going back to green flag racing, but the yellow has clicked back on. And so we'll at least do one more lap. So that explains why Bruno is leading Helio Castroneves. Great pit stop by Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's into 3rd, and you're on board with Scott Dixon, who has fallen back to 4th. Jackaroo.
Now, Scott Dixon has been complaining about the car having a little bit of understeer. They decided not to make any changes, but watch closely on the restarts. Scott Dixon has chosen a different gear cluster to try and provide him with a selection of gears for later in the race to run on the high side. It limits him a little bit on restarts. He's already warned his teammates, and he's warned his spotter to let those around him know as well.
We get ready to come back to green flag racing, and the green flag does wave here on lap 16 of 228. And immediately Junqueira is going to be fish in a barrel for Helio Castroneves on the high side. Here comes Ryan Hunter-Reay. Briscoe is coming back through for his drive-through penalty. So that will probably put him a lap down unless he can really get the speed back up fast.
No, never happened here at Texas. It's going to be a penalty that will really hurt. But Ryan Hunter-Reay right now is running very strongly. We talked about Bruno Junqueira, very talented driver, but with one of the smaller teams here. So when he gets passed on the restart, it's not from a lack of effort or a lack of talent. It's really just they can't get the car up to speed because they don't have all the goodies needed to go fast here, Marty.
Take a look as they go down the back straightaway. Ryan Hunter-Reay has just gotten passed by Scott Dixon. Vince, what's the latest on Ryan?
Well, Ryan Hunter-Reay gained spots during that pit stop because they took fuel only, did not take tires. So a bit of a gamble for the Rahal Letterman team and their ethanol driver, Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Oh, in trouble for Darren Manning as he is out on the, it looks like turn 2 area. As he's down low on the racetrack, but he is moving slowly for A.J. Foyt Racing. And the yellow has come out again. So our second yellow comes out here on lap number 20. So everybody will slow it on down, and we'll find out what happened to Darren Manning as quickly as we could. Race lead is back in the hands of Helio Castroneves. Scott Dixon in 2nd place. Cute story about Scott. The New Zealand Lamb Association gave Scott free lamb for life. Now, lamb, L-A-M-B, you know, like things that go, that kind of, right, there you go, thank you. Work with me, kid. That was for winning the 500. Here's the best part. Scott Dixon thought it was free land, and he was wondering where that land was located.
He'd probably take the land. You know, right now, if I am Ryan Briscoe, I would probably come in and top up because I'm 1 lap down. An opportunity to take the gamble here.
And that's wife Emma on the left and Mom on the right. Don't know if they heard us, but they're smiling at least. Why not? Scott has been dominant. We're waiting to see if anybody's going to be a taker onto pit lane, and yes, Dan Wheldon. Wheldon does come down pit lane. So far, he is one of 3 cars. Jack?
Again, for Dan Wheldon, it's simply pack the car full of fuel. He's going to have to work in the back of the pack anyways. He gained about 6 positions before the yellow flag. They're continuing to dial that car in, and now he has a couple of laps over the rest of the competition to play with.
Well, and Jack, you talk about Dan Wheldon. I thought I would see Penske do the same thing with Ryan Briscoe because he's at the back of the lap right now, 1 lap down. It would be a great opportunity for him to do the same thing.
I would have to agree with you, Scott, but here's what happened there. They were prepared for that drive-through, and you saw that Briscoe was slowing down, and I think what's that Canadian term you use, discombobulation?
Yes.
I think they got a little bit discombobulated there.
Okay.
That word has made it into the broadcast 3 times tonight. Bruno Junqueira comes in this time. Remember, he stayed out the first time, so he'll back up into the field a little bit further as they're having a little trouble with the left rear. Finally get it taken care of, and he'll be back out. No harm, really. And as we get Bruno back out into traffic, go back on board with Scott Dixon. You want to know why everybody in the Target Ganassi camp may be smiling? Take a look at this comparison. Kyle Busch has led a ton of laps in all 3 NASCAR series. 32%, the most in the Nationwide series. Everybody says right now he's the hottest driver in NASCAR, without a doubt. Take a look at that bottom line. Scott Dixon's led 52% of every lap run this season in this series. And in the last 4 races, he has led over 100 laps in each of those events.
Very impressive, and just continuing this year where they finished off last year, a continuation. They've worked well over the wintertime. Very impressive, and that team will be tough to beat.
As we look back a little further through the field, past Dixon, it's Ryan Hunter-Reay in 3rd, Hideki Mutoh 4th. Vitor Meira has moved up to the 5th spot, a good run for him so far. And Danica Patrick right there is in 6th. Vince, what's going on?
Well, Danica was a little disappointed in her pit stop. She didn't get into the box cleanly, and then upon exit, Tony Kanaan had a tire out in the pit box just in front of her, so she didn't exit cleanly either. She felt like pit stops and restarts would be 2 of the keys to success tonight. She said the restarts are risky, but it's also the easiest time to pass because everybody's bunched up. We're getting ready for a restart. Look and see if she'll make a move.
All right, let's show you exactly what Vince was talking about and take you back to the pit stop. And you'll see what happened to Danica and the team as there she comes in. Stop won't take long.
What can I do better? Tell me what I could have done better, because I can't be doing that tonight.
All I can say is maybe just slow down a little bit more so you can get your hands to rotate back quicker. It seems like that's the problem is that you get it, and then we can't get your hands back rotated. So maybe just slow down a little bit on the end. We're also going to work on that right rear tire from Tony's. We're going to have a guy try to get it next time.
Okay, you heard him make the reference to Tony's right rear tires. We're getting ready to go back to green flag racing here, lap 25 of 228 at Texas Motor Speedway. It's Castro Neves in front of Dixon, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Mutoh, and Meira. Look at the action back in the middle of the pack. What was it Brian Barnhart said in the driver's meeting? Guys, don't try 3 wide early in the race.
I know, I hear that all the time, but you're talking race car drivers. That's what we do. We're going out here. We want to race. We want to be 2 or 3 wide. That's why we're here racing. But driving around a single file, you're wasting your breath.
That was Marco Andretti trying to go high. Will Power's in the 8 car right there. He's in front of Tony Kanaan and Kanaan's teammate, Marco Andretti. And Tony's got the low line. He has been fighting this race car all weekend long. And there's Thomas Scheckter also trying to get into this mix.
A lot of mixing going on. The cars come off the turn. It just the ground gets forced up out of the turn. And what they try to do is get back down to the low line on that back stretch. We'll watch it again here. Now you're going along the front stretch through the D section, as we call it. Cars will go through turns 1 and 2, and then just be forced towards the high side. Then everybody dives down towards a white line, trying to make sure nobody slips underneath.
On board with Thomas Scheckter. While this is going on, Brianna's caught up with Darren Manning.
That's right, Marty. Darren just climbed out of his car. Darren, AJ said there may have been a problem with the fuel pressure. From your point of view, what happened?
Yeah, it just completely stopped dead in its tracks. You know, you'll have to, that's why we're taking it back. It's nothing we can really do in the pit lane to fix it. So we had a problem earlier in the weekend with the fuel pump, and we thought we fixed it. But obviously, no, it's a real shame for the ABC car. We got a lot of people here from them, and the car was really good. We didn't. We actually qualified with a bit of a race setup on because we lost all the track time on Thursday. So my car was great. I was up high, down low, passing everybody. We just made a quick change in the pit stop, got a good restart, and then that happened. So a bit of a shame because I thought we were going to the front.
AJ told me before the race, guys, they would need some luck tonight. Unfortunately, it looks like they didn't get quite enough.
No, didn't get it at all. Take a look right there. You saw how close this action is. Basically pick a person, and they've got somebody right alongside them. Let's zero in on EJ Vizo. He is on fire, folks. The 33 car. He started dead last in this field. They went and changed everything. He's on the right side of your screen. Vince, he is now up 13th. He has climbed 15 spots since the start of this race.
That's exactly right, Marty. And this team was quick in the Thursday practice, but they had an electrical problem on Friday and got very little practice time on Friday afternoon in qualifying. He said they just missed on the setup. He told me beforehand today, we'll be much better in the race, and there's no doubt about it. The car is better, and this kid is not afraid to get after it, being pressured from behind now.
Well, he just got around AJ Foyt, the fourth. Fourth says, hey, I want the spot back, but Vizo's not giving it to him. Meanwhile, here's what's going on up front. Ryan Hunter-Reay is closing in. You're on board with him.
You see how his car just goes towards the outside. When those cars are in front, take some air away from his car, some downforce away. The car will slide out on the turn, and that's why you start to see him wheel it back down to the cars in front. He wants to be behind as much as possible to get a draft, and now he's thinking he might try the high side of the red and white machine, number 9 of Scott Dixon.
Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Well, what you're seeing is two Wills, iron-fisted as they may be. For Scott Dixon, he has asked Packy Wheeler to go to Ryan Hunter-Reay's spotter high atop the grandstands, and for the two of them to hook up single file to try and overtake Helio Castroneves. So far, they have been unsuccessful in their lobbying effort amongst the spotters. And the problem is Ryan Hunter-Reay doesn't mind if he can get by the number 9 of Scott Dixon. He said, then we'll do it. You notice already, guys, people are starting to sneak up to the high side. The word on the street in the garage area before the start of this race was the high side was going to be where you were going to have to run. Some people made major gear changes to compensate for it, to get ready to go up on the top side of these banks.
And you saw Danica Patrick going up on the high side to try and get around Hideki Mutoh. There they are, side by side. That's a battle for 4th. And Vizo is up to 10th. This kid is hot, hot, hot. She falls back into line. That is Ed Carpenter right behind her. He's going to try. We've got to go to break, but don't worry. We'll update you on everything that's happening here in Texas. Back here at Texas Motor Speedway, we are under our 3rd caution here on lap 40, as Justin Wilson has a right front suspension that has either failed or there was some contact. Now, he couldn't even turn it into his pit. He did manage to get it back into pit lane. The guys have come out and sort of dragging him back. There you can see a better angle of it. We're not quite sure yet whether he had contact. Let's go on board with Oriol Servia.
I see, he doesn't look like he's actually impacted the wall, because look at this. This is 210 miles an hour. Whoa. But for Justin Wilson, looks like he was through the turn and possibly the suspension collapse there on the right-hand side. You can see that lower wishbone itself is just having the collapse in it. And what ends up happening in that situation, you can see them working on it, and that should be straight across, and it's bent. And what ended up happening, I think, for him is it collapsed. He kept the car off the wall, which is impressive by itself at 210 miles an hour. And usually if you end up hitting the wall, you get a lot of body damage, obviously. So I talked to him earlier, and he just said, you know, I just want to learn about ovals. This high bank is a little bit scary, but we'll just get through it, I hope.
Well, and a tough break for him. Remember, he's coming off a 7th place finish at Milwaukee just a week ago. And of course, at Indianapolis, managed to come home in 9th. There they come, down pit lane. Here comes Helio Castroneves and Vince Welch, you're up.
Ryan Hunter-Reay just pulling his ethanol car in. You see him in the bottom of the screen. Remember, they did not take tires the first stop, so they've definitely got to take the Firestones in this one. Jack?
Helio Castroneves takes out fuel in 4 brand new Firestone tires. He does a battle with Scott Dixon to see who will lead him up. Dixon may have led.
So the ethanol triple pits, you saw everything that was going on as off pit road. It was Scott Dixon getting the advantage over Helio Castroneves. Castroneves has led 36 laps, as it is now his 5th race where he's led this year. And of course, we've already talked about how many laps Scott Dixon has led, 52% coming into tonight for the entire year. We're going to take another break here in Texas. Stay with us, we'll go green. Don't forget to join us here tomorrow on ESPN2. NASCAR Now will kick it off at 10 a.m. Eastern, followed by NHRA Race Day at 11 a.m. And then don't miss NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series from Route 66. It's at 5 Eastern, all of it on ESPN2. Just log on to ESPN.com. Under our third caution, let me go back and make one correction. It was back at Kansas where Justin Wilson came home in 9th place. At Indianapolis, of course, he had the problems and ended up 27th. So before the emails and the phone calls start coming in, we'll get that one squared away. No start as they were getting ready to go green, but again, the yellow flag is going to come back out, and so we'll continue around as our 18th lap under caution of the 44 that we have completed. And that may be one of the reasons why we are still under caution. That's the 34 car of Jamie Kamara. All right, let's, Jamie makes his way around for his Conquest Racing Team pits to try and make it work. Let's go on board with Scott Dixon and talk a little bit about his domination. He's led 5 of the 6 races that we've run this year. There's the numbers, 575 laps, that's 52%. 4 poles, not a bad way to go. 2 wins, including the biggest one of all, the Indianapolis 500. Not a bad way to start the year. We have 1 to go this time by at the line. Got just enough time to check in with Justin Wilson. He's with Brienne.
Justin, you said that out there on the track you were just starting to relax and enjoy yourself out there. What happened?
I think something happened up front, and Buddy had to get out the throttle. I got out the throttle pretty much on the entry to 1, and I was just pushed all the way through 1, through 2, and just ran out of road and brushed the wall on the outside of 2. So the car went a long way with no throttle. It just couldn't get it stopped.
Frustrating end of the day, guys.
All right, so thanks for the update. And look at this as we go back to green flag racing. It is a freight train with Team Penske on the high side. Bruno Junqueira just can't keep up the speed, so anybody that's behind him is caught. Here comes Ryan Hunter-Reay to try and get around him as well.
Well, for Bruno that time, he was slow on the pedal on the restart. The previous one just didn't have as much speed, but that one there, he'll get this down sooner or later, but he didn't do a great job that time.
Boy, and Dixon still stuck behind Bruno. He finally gets on the high side after Mutoh gets around him. Jackaroot?
Remember, Scott Dixon said and told everybody he was going to have problems on restarts because of their gear selection. They can't come up through the throttle just as quick as some of the others. And you saw the way he was double-teamed, Vince Welch, by the 2 Team Penske cars.
We've got yellow on the racetrack. The yellow has come out again. And we have a car in the wall, looks like Oriol Servia. So after a great run at Milwaukee, Servia is into the infield wall. And it looks like that's on the back stretch, just out of 2. Vince, you've got an update on Servia?
Well, guys, in that previous pit stop, Oriol Servia took a front wing adjustment and a tire pressure adjustment because they felt like the car needed more downforce. I don't know exactly what led to this incident. We'll see if we can see that on the replays, but they had made a pretty significant change on that previous pit stop.
Well, Servia, of course, coming off that great run in Milwaukee where he came back from being a lap down to finish 6th. We'll get a couple of looks as we'll go on board with Oriol.
Remember, this is just after the restart. Running in the high line right now. Oh, yes, it does. If Vince Welch was mentioning that they ended up having a little bit more front wing into that car, then the car would be very neutral to loose, and it looks like the back end just got around from him as he started to go through on the high side. As you ride aboard right now with Thomas Scheckter, watch up front. The back end just steps out a little bit, wiggles. Thomas Scheckter gets it slowed down quick enough, and wow, John Andretti got through there.
That was close. Servia almost saved it. He almost saved it, and then that last spin took him to the inside of the wall. Vince, you've caught up with team owner Jimmy Vasser.
Jimmy, you guys made a wing adjustment and tire pressure on that last stop. Any relation to what just happened on the track?
I mean, everything's related, right? But it looked to me like he was like trying to go around Bernaldi on the outside, and like when a transition off the transition there, it just got snapped out on him. So didn't really talk to him at length about it, but yeah, I'm just happy he's okay.
Marty?
All right, thanks, Vince. Now, remember that Penske freight train. One thing we definitely want to point out to you, just in case you're tuning in, Ryan Briscoe is 1 lap down. Now, he is right there in front of Helio Castroneves, who is the race leader. Remember, Briscoe had that drive-through penalty. So it is really Castroneves, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Hideki Mutoh. But it was Briscoe that helped him get that lead back as they blasted right around Bruno Junqueira. And, of course, he will get the wave by, so stay with us. Back here at the Great American Speedway, there are the race leaders, and Helio Castroneves in front of Ryan Hunter-Reay, and all the way back to Ryan Briscoe. He did get the wave around. He came in, got topped off with fuel, and so did Thomas Scheckter, and we're working on that. We don't know why. He is running 22nd right now as we go back to green flag racing here at Texas. Oh, spin right down the front straightaway. It is the 19 of Mario Moraes. He does a complete 360. No one else gets collected. And he makes a great save.
Boy, you won't do that very often and get away with it. My goodness.
So we don't even get back one more lap, and I don't know exactly how he got turned around, but Moraes saves it.
And anytime you go through the grass here and over the pavement of the small oval track here on the front stretch at Texas, where they go through here on the D shape, anytime you go through there and you don't get the car to catch and roll over, you can feel that you are very blessed. We had Dan Wheldon crash earlier just in the weekend and went through the grass and ended up getting the wheels caught and then flipping over.
There is Mario Moraes, and let's show you exactly what happened to him. There he is. Right? Yep. Oh, contact with Scheckter.
And I'm going to say that Thomas Schecter's day is probably done also, because his left front would have a lot of damage. Now, on a restart, as soon as it goes green, you can pass it any time.
Scheckter had no room.
Scheckter was in the right. He was doing exactly what he should be doing. Inspected the car, feel that there is no damage, and we'll let him continue on.
So the Lusso Dragon Racing team, they're definitely going to be racing at Sonoma. They're also going to race at Chicago, and they're trying to put together a couple more events, and we hope they do. It's great having Thomas out here and the team, and they're doing a fine job. They had a great run going at Indy until the half shaft broke, and Thomas goes back out. You saw Mario Moraes still in the pits.
And most importantly, he gets out before the pace car, so he is not going to go down one lap.
All right, well, we've got a moment to catch our breath because things have been flying here pretty fast. Brianna's caught up with Oriol Servia.
Marty, it was a frustrating end to your first IndyCar start at Texas Motor Speedway. Any indication what went wrong in the car?
Well, I don't know. I just lost it. We had a lot of understeer earlier in the race. We made some changes. The truth, I don't know, maybe the right rear went down because it was down now and I didn't touch anything. It just went loose, we lost it. Shame for the whole team. After the Milwaukee was a great race for us, and we're catching up on the ovals. We still have a little more to go.
The good news, guys, he is okay, and believe it or not, he still manages a smile. You gotta love this guy.
Well, and take a look at his face. The perspiration. Temperatures are in the 90s. The humidity is oppressive. The winds are whipping. I mean, Thursday, our camera crews were having trouble holding on to the roof. They had an anemometer up there. 54 miles an hour was the highest speed that we saw up on top of the speedway. And the drivers were hoping that this wind would die down even more before tonight's race. It is a little bit calmer, but we still have about a 25-mile-an-hour breeze.
And it makes a lot of effect on the race car, how it handles. It usually handles differently at one end of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2, and it will handle differently down in 3 and 4. It also plays havoc on the gear ratio selection for the drivers and their engineers coming up to race time, because it will give you different RPM levels on different ends of the straightaway, both into 1 and also into 3.
All right, we have the 26 and the 11 right in front of each other. That's Marco Andretti and Tony Kanaan, respectively. 1 to go this time at the line. And Vince, you say that the blood may be boiling again in the camp?
Well, remember, Marco Andretti made that late move on Tony Kanaan at the Indy 500, caused Kanaan to wreck. Just a few moments ago on the radio, Kanaan came over and said, if we go 3 wide like that again, the Blockbuster car is going to the wall. Of course, the Blockbuster car is his teammate, Marco Andretti. So keep an eye on the 11 and the 26. They're currently running 6th and 7th. Andretti 6th, Kanaan 7th.
And as we get ready to go back green, right behind them, let's give a nod to Buddy Rice in the 15 car. He started 25th. He has moved up to 8th. So as we get ready to go back to green flag race, there is Buddy and Danica Patrick right behind Buddy. So it looks like the love on this team may be, shall we say, strained.
And it's not over yet. We've got a long way to go.
Green flag is out. We're going to go 3. No, we're going to do 2 this time. There's Kanaan right underneath the 26. A lot of traffic heading into 1. Marco's going on the high side again. Tony's staying down low. Boy, look at the dicing going up on for the lead as well. Where do you point the cameras? We got Ryan Hunter-Reay trying to take the lead, and then you got these guys back here going 3 wide.
That's why we love Texas, the high banks here, 24-degree banking, high speed, and look at the crowd. Everybody is standing up because they just can't believe what they're seeing.
Let's check in on what Ryan Hunter-Reay's camp is talking about. Vince?
Well, Marty, they're very happy with their race car, and as you can see, Hunter-Reay is stalking the Penske car in front. Remember, this is the first time Ryan Hunter-Reay has raced at this track, but he looks very comfortable. And this team did not have a good car at Milwaukee and had to just kind of hold on throughout the day. This weekend, Scott Ripke, who manages that team, had a team meeting. One team member said it was a come-to-Jesus meeting. Ripke told me beforehand it was to get everybody's attention to start dotting the I's and crossing the T's. We've got a good race car driver. Let's be a good race team.
Vince, I got to tell you, Scott Goodyear's up here while you're talking, just putting his hands up in the air. I mean, this is getting dicey.
I will tell you a very quick story here as we go on board with Scott Dixon. After all the years of racing here and going wheel to wheel, I started doing television. I went home after the first time here doing the Texas race for TV, and I said to my wife, you wouldn't believe exactly what those guys are doing, wheel to wheel, and I'm going on about it for 2 to 3 minutes. Then she stopped and she looked at me and she goes, that has been me watching you going around here for the past 5 or 6 years at Texas. That's why I don't go up to the suite and watch anymore. I always came down to the pit lane. Every wife today will be feeling that, including Danica's husband, because you are in the pit lane and you only see them come around every 23 or 24 seconds. It's easier on the drivers, Marty, simply because we know what's going on because we're in the car.
Take a look at that 33 car right behind Ed Carpenter in the bright yellow 20. E.J. Vizo started dead last in this field. He is now up to 7th. Kanaan's trying to go underneath him, and his side by side, they're duking that out for position. Meanwhile, look at the battle up front. Here comes Dixon. It's a 3-car hunt. Elio takes it way down to the line.
Didn't want to give them the draft, but it didn't seem to work.
Man, this is close. These guys are flying at 215 miles an hour.
Inside.
Now it's a 4-car battle. Look out.
Clear by 2 to the rear, alongside.
Marco Andretti is getting into the mix. That high line is working for him. He's getting around Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Again, so close coming off a 4.
Behind you. He's going to push you. Still inside. Still inside.
No time to relax when you're clipping along at these speeds.
Still there.
Vince, you've got an update?
Marco Andretti looking on the outside. Hey, this car Marco is driving today is the same car Dario Franchitti drove to victory at the Indy 500 last year. It's also the car that Dario went airborne in Michigan. It's the first time that car has raced since then. It was fast for Dario. It's pretty fast for Marco today, too.
Yeah, except for the flipping part. He doesn't want to hear about that, I guarantee it. Look at this action going on here on lap 69 of 228. We're not even close to halfway. These guys are fighting it out like it's the end of the finish.
And everybody in this crowd, and I keep saying this, are still on their feet.
Marco's going to come up top. Half back.
Remember what they said in the drivers'
Now
meeting?
behind you.
Going single file?
Still there.
What's happening? Not a chance.
Still there.
I'm going to tell you, the reason we're shutting up, folks, we don't need to say anything. You're seeing it all. There goes Marco. He has cleared him. So Ryan Hunter-Reay's got to fight his way back. There's Tony Kanaan. Boy, Kanaan's creeping back into this. This guy is amazing at this track. That car was junk when they brought it off of the trailer. I mean, he couldn't find a combination. In 7 starts, Tony has finished in the top 3 5 times, including a win in 04, and there he is in 5th. And look at this action up front. And Ed Carpenter's trying to get into the mix in the bright yellow number 20.
The fastest car on the racetrack right now, no doubt, Marco Andretti.
Do you know what the margin was at the stripe last lap? 3/1000th of a second between first and second. 13 of the last 18 races here have finished under 1 second. Is it any wonder the fans love coming to Texas? Boy, Andretti loves that high line.
Well, he's got no choice. He can't go in the low line. Those guys are side by each, and they're not going to make a move because right now Dixon's saying, come along behind me, help me, push me, get me just past Helio Castroneves.
Look at this. Here we go again. Marcos, but he is not afraid to run that high line. 3 wide. How long can this go on?
Are you kidding me?
Down the back stretch. Sound like I'm doing the Belmont Stakes. Got a little bit of breath of fresh air there. It's first time in about 10 laps that we've seen that much space between first and fourth. It's going to give us a chance to just step aside. Promise, if anything happens, we'll be right back. We won't miss anything that's important. Guaranteed. Well, we got a quick moment. Let's talk about first-time winners this year in the IndyCar Series. Of course, if we go back to St. Petersburg, 19-year-old Graham Rahal made history, becoming the youngest ever to win an IndyCar event. And then, of course, the big win at Motegi when Danica Patrick broke that barrier down, and the tears flowed. And then Ryan Briscoe, just 1 week ago, as he picked up his first IndyCar win at Milwaukee. Now, who could that be this time? Well, maybe Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's running in 4th right now, and now the leaders are coming up on some slower traffic. And Ryan Briscoe, remember when he was a lap down? He has fought his way back, and he is now up to 5th. He has gotten around Kanaan and Carpenter, and Briscoe is on a tear. Remember, he had the drive-through penalty, went a lap down, then got his lap back. And there you can see where he restarted on lap 61, and 21 laps later, he is in 5th. Let's get an update from Brianna. I think she's caught up with Thomas Scheckter. They're out of the race.
That's right, Marty. Thomas, we saw the obvious damage on the car. There was even a bit of a fire there in pit lane for a moment, but walk me through the incident that happened on the track that led you to this predicament.
Yeah, it's again, I think just someone came up, and I'm not sure which car it was, but we shouldn't have been back there in the first place. We had a stop where at the back someone came into us, so we shouldn't have really been back there, but I have to just thank the Symantec guys and everybody, giving me a good car, qualified well. You know, race didn't go as we wanted to, and we just have to go back, have a look, and see if we can get back another weekend.
Guys, we haven't seen the end of Thomas Scheckter and Lusso Dragon Racing. If not before, we'll see them in Sonoma.
That's for sure. They're trying to put several other races we mentioned, and there you can see right now Castroneves has opened about a 0.3 of a second lead, and back and forth. You saw Ryan Hunter-Reay. We talked about his possibility of becoming the next first-time winner. We ought to take the time to send a congratulatory note to Brad Keselowski. Of course, he was a first-time winner tonight in the Nationwide Series. So tip of the old cap to Brad Keselowski. Congratulations at Nashville. All right, it's sort of settled down for the first time in quite a while. And while we've got a moment, let's talk to Scott Dixon about how it can be a struggle at Texas.
It's a place, once you get a knack for it, is a lot of fun. You know, qualifying's easy. Practice, you really need to work on practice. You got to try and, you know, get in behind cars, make sure, because it's going to be a big pack racing. And in the race, you are shocked. It's a lot harder than you think. And, you know, for me, the first year when Scheckter kind of blew my doors off as a teammate was something hard to swallow, because I'm like, this is so easy, you know, you just sort of run around the bottom, but there's definitely a knack to that place, and I think that was the thing that shocked me first time.
And since then, this year, he's been blowing everybody else's doors off.
So smooth, he's in the zone, the team is in the zone, they just make it look so easy. But as we've been on board on his car, it looks like he is fighting the steering wheel a little more than we've typically seen him do in the oval races this year. It'll be interesting to see if they can make some changes on that car for him to improve how it's going to handle. Is he riding around right now behind the leader saving fuel, or does he just not have enough speed to pass? Jack Arute?
Scotty, as I said early in the show, he's had a push condition, a slight understeer condition, and rather than trying to cure it, they basically have decided that he's going to try and live with it. And you're right. What he's trying to do now is just cruise along, because in front of him is Helio Castroneves. Now, normally, about this point in time, you would see people maybe wanting to try and swap positions. Well, Helio Castroneves, in talking to Tim Cindric, he has been stymied and snake bit so many times, they just want him to lead as many laps as possible. So for Scott Dixon right now, he likes his position for that man on the right-hand side. Well, he's calling the shots on your leader, and he likes Castroneves out front. So many caution laps have taken away any concern from the Team Penske operation about making fuel.
Well, we're going to be coming up on pit stops, and this could be our first round of green flag stops. And remember, traditionally this year, the guy who has been out in front breaking all that air for everybody else has had to pit first. So we're going to find out exactly what's going to happen here pretty quickly with Helio Castroneves.
You jinxed it. You said green flag pit stops.
I know, but you got to point it out. Yeah, of course, Helio Castroneves, one of the guys that has won here twice, along with Scott Goodyear and several others. And we've got another car coming into pit lane, and that is Danica Patrick. So Danica here, 49 laps on her fuel run. And Vince, she's coming your way.
Reminding Danica to warm up her brakes. Remember, she didn't have a good pit stop last time, so they want to make sure she gets in cleanly. She was able to do that. They make an adjustment up front, and away she goes. Remember, she had trouble getting in and out last pit stop. They took advantage of coming in a little earlier, not having any traffic on pit lane.
So she'll go back out, and now the worst thing that she wants to see would be that dreaded yellow. There she is. The blend line is down the back straightaway. And there she comes back out, getting up to speed. Meanwhile, Helio Castroneves has got 0.3 of a second lead over Scott Dixon. That may be our biggest lead of the night, and it's starting to narrow down because here comes Dixon on the high side.
I'm not so sure that Castroneves didn't have a problem back there in the turn, because he just seemed like he came off slow for a moment.
And now all of a sudden he gets a little run and gets back out in front of Dixon, although he does have some slower lap traffic coming up. Jack, let's talk a little bit more about pit strategies. We're up to 52 laps.
Yeah, fellas, and keep in mind that of the front four, 3 will have to pit fairly soon, and that, of course, will be Castroneves, Dixon, and Ryan Hunter-Reay. But what about the 6 car? Your leader's teammate, Ryan Briscoe. Well, Roger Penske just radioed to his charge and said, remember, you've got about 16 more laps than the rest of the folks. So if they go green, like you said, and we have a green flag pit stop, could be Briscoe inheriting the lead, at least temporarily.
Well, he may be a little high as we're on board with Briscoe. He said 16. It's actually 11 by our count up here in the booth. But either way, you're right, Jack. He may be the man who ends up inheriting the lead, and then the strategy changes again as we have yet to reach the halfway mark of this race. The other thing I want to talk about is, remember last year you mentioned they were running on 100% fuel? Pit window was 42 to 46 laps. Here we are, we're working 55 laps. So a lot of people are turning the wick down. Take a look, that's Marco Andretti as he's got a run going on those guys. He's trying to hang on to that high side. There's your top 5. Things are still going great at Texas. Oh. Back here at Texas Motor Speedway, and just as you see Marco Andretti turning into pit lane, when we went to break, Marco made a move for the lead, and lap traffic played a part.
On the high side, the car just wiggles a little bit up there, just at the very edge of the gray, and takes advantage of the traffic just up ahead on the low side. The dark car, the black car, 25, Marty Roth, slows up Helio Castroneves and allows Marco Andretti to go by, and right now Roth is going slow.
So Marco's coming in, and so is Tony Kanaan. Vince?
Marco Andretti and Tony Kanaan, as you see, Kanaan passed by. 4 tires and fuel, obviously, for Andretti. They've made no adjustments to the car. He says it's great. No chassis adjustments here either. And out goes the 26. You see Kanaan just ahead, and here comes Helio. Jack?
And Helio Castroneves adhering to the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. Seems like an eternity until he comes to the pits. He came in as your leader, and now in this green flag condition, we'll see his crew go to work. Rick Reineman working on the high side, had a little bit of problem getting the wheel off, but they're continuing to pack the fuel in at 3 gallons a second, 6.9, 7.9, 8.7 seconds. And Scott Dixon is is on his way down to be serviced next up in the queue.
So Marco comes in at 59 laps, then the others follow at 60 and 61 respectively. And Ryan Briscoe is now your race leader. As here comes Scott Dixon, Jack.
He hits his marks perfectly. As we've said, Scott Dixon has been having a little bit of a slight understeer problem. Again, so far, no wing adjustments, no major change. Just messing around a little bit with the tire pressure, but they're anticipating a change. Meanwhile, his teammate, Dan Wheldon, who has been battling the car ever since he got into it, finishes his pit stop the first under green, fellas, and this leaves Ryan Briscoe with some clear sailing. He still has a number of laps before he must pit, but he will make some major chassis adjustments. Look for a turn on the front wing.
All right, as you see Ryan Briscoe out in front, remember we talked about the fact he has at least 11 laps in hand. We're also hearing, if you're a fan of Helio Castroneves, we got bad news for you. He is going to get a drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lane. So a Texas two-step is not real good when you're too fast with the step.
60 miles an hour there is the entrance to the pit lane, and then you have to go 60 miles an hour all the way through.
Let's go back. We thought we saw a puff of smoke, and yes, there was. There was contact between Ryan Hunter-Reay. Now, this was before this round of pit stops started. And we went back, the guys in the tape room, great job, guys, of finding that. And there is Ryan Hunter-Reay. That's what got him all crossed up, and then you had the contact. Luckily, no major incident. Here comes Helio for his drive-through penalty. 107 of 228 laps. So now he'll go back out, and this should put him a lap down. Whoa, that got close there. And here comes, is that Ryan Briscoe coming in?
Coming in, I think, now for a fuel stop and also change of tires. Interesting to see if they will replace the front wing that is slightly damaged.
He must have had the wick turned up as far as fuel settings because he only made 6 more laps than the other guys. So we thought he had at least 11 laps. He ends up getting 6. And oh, that may be part of the problem right there. There is damage to the wing, Jack. That's probably the issue.
And that's indeed why he was called in, Marty, but we'll have to wait and see if they're going to be able to effect any sort of repair on that front wing. They're going to change the front wing now. Roger Penske has made the order to change the nose. They continue their fueling, and this will tick off precious and valuable time. They're having a little bit of a problem getting it unlatched. In fact, Roger showed his disgust by saying, oh, guys, come on. They get it back, hooked up, trying to twist it. A long stop. Yeah, and it puts Ryan Briscoe right back where he was before.
Yeah, he's going to probably be about 2 laps down this time. Tough break, the contact. And it was not his fault this time by any stretch of the imagination. Ryan Hunter-Reay got a little loose. He couldn't get it wound down quickly enough. Let's take another look from the outside.
Car on the right-hand side. Briscoe just is starting to come up behind the 17 of Ryan Hunter-Reay and ends up just peeling back the top skin of that left front wing on the Team Penske machine.
Now this is also the tape when they were replacing the wing, and you see how they quickly affect the job, but when you're at green flag conditions, it's costly. So Briscoe gets back out. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the race lead because it is now in the hands of Marco Andretti with Scott Dixon right behind him. Tony Kanaan has moved up to 3rd. Ryan Hunter-Reay is 4th. Ed Carpenter is running 5th.
Marco doing just a terrific job. This is a racetrack where his dad came early back, I guess 2001, back in the kart era, and did not like this racetrack, did not like the speed of the racetrack, and thought IndyCar should not run here. Marco obviously enjoying it.
And doing quite well, as we might add, as he's got about 0.2 of a second lead. He's led 6 of our 111 laps. Castroneves led the most, 85. Well, we got a moment. ABC is your final destination for the NBA Finals. The series continues tomorrow night as Kobe Bryant and the Lakers try to even the score with Kevin Garnett and the Celtics in Game 2. Boy, Game 1 was good. The NBA Finals on ABC tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern. So you can see it has settled down, at least for the moment. We're going to step aside. We'll hold our breath that nothing will happen until you get back. If it does, we'll bring you up to speed. Marco Andretti's your leader. Take a look at the battle here at Texas Motor Speedway. We're catching just as Scott Dixon goes around Marco Andretti. With 112 laps to go, we've just passed halfway. And let's go get more from Jackaroo.
Remember in the Belmont today, you saw the jockeys using the whip. Well, Packy upstairs, Packy Wheeler is kind of like the jockey for Scott Dixon. Dixon was radioing back the difficulty he was having trying to get around Marco Andretti for the lead. Packy Wheeler then radioed back, stop complaining and just go by him. And that's exactly what his driver did.
There he is now with a 0.2 of a second lead over Marco Andretti. It's Tony Kanaan in third. Ryan Hunter-Reay is fourth. Ed Carpenter is fifth. Now Carpenter's about 5 seconds behind Ryan Hunter-Reay. And you can see it's basically those three cars. It sort of has calmed down a little bit. I mean, if you've missed the early portions of this race, it was like anywhere we pointed a camera, there were 2 and 3 cars going after each other. It's still a good battle up front, just not quite as wheel to wheel as it was 25 laps ago. So as we got a moment, let's give a tip of the hat to Ed Carpenter. Of course, Ed had that incident at the last race in Milwaukee. You can't miss Ed. He is in that bright yellow 20. And of course, Marco Andretti late in the race slid up into him, and they both ended up crashing. Vitor Meira went airborne. Luckily, no one was hurt. We talked to Ed about that incident.
I never had the speed in Milwaukee to run right with the leaders, but we were in good position. And then obviously late in the race, you know, I was racing Oriole hard for 6 and let Marco kind of catch up to me, and he tried to make a, you know, desperation type move late in the race. And, you know, short track racing, it's one of those things I wasn't happy about it. I wasn't super mad at first because I was just trying to catch my breath. It was a hard hit. But then as soon as I see Marco, he apologizes, and I'm not the type of person that when a guy says sorry, you know, I'm going to jump all over him about it.
Well, and Ed Carpenter might end up battling with Marco Andretti again before the night is over. But right now, Carpenter running just outside the top 5 in 6th place. He's had a couple of top 5 finishes already this season, including Indianapolis at the 500. He says one of the main reasons he's improved is his confidence in the team. He says this team is working extremely hard to give him the best race car, and his confidence in that team has allowed him to push the car closer to the edge. There's no doubt about it. This driver has become much more consistent, and the results are showing. Actually, he'd even have better results this year if not for a couple of unfortunate breaks, including last week at Milwaukee. Marty?
Absolutely right, Vince. And right now he is comfortably ensconced in 6th position. Dan Wheldon did get around him for 5th, but he's got about a 5-second margin before Buddy Rice would catch up to him. Now, as we continue to move back further through the field, want to do an update on Ryan Briscoe. Remember, we thought he would end up being at least 1 lap down. Well, remember also he had a pretty good-sized lead when he came into the pit stop for that wing change. It took him about 18 additional seconds, and Briscoe, according to IndyCar scoring, has managed to not only stay on the lead lap, he's going after Danica Patrick, and that is for 9th on the racetrack. That is unbelievable to me.
Watch it go, so close.
You come here like this, outside, Nice job, nice job.
While all this is going on, Jackaroo, you've got more?
Yeah, remember when he made that wing change, he was originally scheduled to take a turn of wing in the wing before it was damaged. Well, they didn't get enough turn in. He asked Ryan Briscoe, Roger Penske that was, how's the car feel? He says, I still need more wing taken out of the car. So as good as Ryan Briscoe is running, the next pit stop, Roger Penske and this team hopes they can let him run even better with a final wing adjustment.
Well, I still just think it's absolutely amazing that they were able to stay on the lead lap despite being under green flag conditions and making a full wing change up front. But according to IndyCar scoring, they pulled it off. He's going under the slower lap traffic. Let's move a little bit further back. Briscoe's in 9th. Danica Patrick there in 10th. There you see her in the black and blue Motorola car. And let's look in on Vitor Meira. Last time we saw Mir at Milwaukee, he was flying through the air without the greatest of ease. He's in 11th, 19 seconds behind our race leader. Let's get more from Brienne Pettigo.
Marty, a lot of times with racing, we get caught up in moving fast, but Vitor Meira and his National Guard Panther Racing team took some time this week to go back and put things in perspective. On Wednesday, they visited Brooke Army Hospital in San Antonio. It's a hospital that specializes in treating critically burned soldiers of our armed forces, not unlike specialist Joey Polk, who you can hopefully get a shot of here. Vitor spent about 5 hours signing autographs with these guys, and most importantly, just sharing stories with them, spending time and laughing. He said he was amazed at the tenacious spirit that our soldiers have, and he's hoping to carry that with him today in the race. A lot of times Vitor gets down, he still is looking for his first career win, but he said after leaving the hospital and visiting with the soldiers, he has no problems. Guys.
Great story, thanks Brienne. And Vitor still in 11th as he's still behind by about a second to Danica Patrick. And while we're on Vitor Meira, let's bring in the GoDaddy.com trivia question. And this may give it away after we were just mentioning Vitor Meira. Which IndyCar Series team has the most wins at Texas Motor Speedway? And you can't answer this, Scott Goodyear, because you're involved in it. The clock is running, folks. The answer is, of course, Vitor Meira's Panther Racing team. Boy, are we sly or what? 5 total wins. Scott of them has 2. Way to go, Scotto. All right, go on board with Danica Patrick as she is riding in 10th right now, and everything has sort of calmed down, but that doesn't mean it'll stay that way. ESPN's presentation of the Bombardier Learjet 550 in Texas is brought to you by Bombardier Learjet. Speed is everything. And in part by Firestone, the first name in Indy racing. Back here at Texas Motor Speedway, let's talk a little about what's going to happen on the weekend tomorrow on ESPN2. We'll start off with NASCAR now at 10 a.m. Eastern, followed by NHRA Race Day at 11 a.m. and then NHRA Drag Racing at 5 Eastern. Don't miss any of it. Let's check it in the pit lane. Danica Patrick is in.
Well, you see her crew moving around the outside. That's Dave Sharpley on the outside front. Danica's been complaining about the handling of the car, but no chassis adjustment. They said, hold on to it. We'll get you to the pit soon, and they did. We'll see if this fresh tires makes it better for her.
Well, Ed Carpenter's going on to pit lane as well. He's going a lap down. So has Danica Patrick as a result of her pit stop. Elio Castroneves is the first car on a lap down. There is Ed. And then Vince, you've got it.
Ed Carpenter getting a wing adjustment. They're having a problem on the outside rear. That's been the delay in this stop. All this stop is killing them. A very good race for Ed Carpenter. Just took a major hit with an outside rear problem.
Seems like every race where he gets it going, something happens to him.
Looked like the right rear had a problem with the gun. Looked like the gun was not working for him. Now they'll have spare guns in the pit box, so the next time he comes in for service work, that'll be replaced.
What's amazing to me is how the complexion of this race has changed. Think about this. Elio Castroneves has led the most laps, 85. Scott Dixon, our current leader, has led the second most at 33. That's our Firestone lap leaders up to the minute. 3 other guys have led as well. Marco Andretti, Bruno Junqueira, and Ryan Briscoe. But now, all of a sudden, if you look at the leaderboard, you're saying, well, wait a minute. How does a guy like Castroneves get a lap down? How does, Danica Patrick get 2 laps down? Well, I mean, this race, the complexion has changed so much.
Well, I was interested to watch with Elio Castroneves because remember he had that time where he slowed up and it looked like Dixon was going to have a run on him, and then he seemed to find speed and got going again. Well, we just watched with Dixon. He hunted down Elio Castroneves, and then Castroneves looked like he was going to have something to have a response, maybe not go a lap down, and then all of a sudden his car seemed to go out from underneath him coming off of turn 4 again, and he went a lap down, and now he's falling back off the pace.
And right now, Scott Dixon has got the biggest lead that we've had all night, 2.3 seconds. And you saw that Marco Andretti was a little slower there, as that is Elio Castroneves trying to get back around him, and does. There are Firestone lap leaders. So all of a sudden, here Elio is back faster than Marco Andretti. So maybe Marco has an issue now. And Hideki Mutoh is in the pits. Vince?
What a nice job this young driver for Andretti Green has done. This is his first time here at Texas Motor Speedway, but he's handled the 2-wide racing, and his crew has given him a clean stop again.
And while that goes on, Marco Andretti continues to fall behind even further to Scott Dixon. 3.6 seconds now the difference. And it looks like Marco may want to head for pit lane. Yes, he's coming in. So Marco, it's only been 47 laps. I gotta believe there may be an issue with that race car. Vince, are they saying anything over the radio that would lead us to believe they've got a problem?
They are going to add front wing, but they have been happy with the car because they have not made a chassis adjustment all night long, but they are making a front wing adjustment on this stop as Marco Andretti comes in and hits his marks. The crew has talked about the significance of good, clean pit stops tonight, really stressing it. So far, they've had issues on a couple of the other teams, but not on this stop. A good run for the Andretti Green team.
Also, Will Power in the pit lane right now. He was shown in 11th position. He is 1 lap down, now 2 laps down, as we only have 8 cars now on the lead lap. And
last car on the lead lap is Vitor Meira, which is right now where he has to look in his mirrors and see the 9 car of Scott Dixon starting to come very close to him.
Here comes Tony Kanaan as he peels off. He's one of our cars on the lead lap. And let me correct it, it's now 6 cars on the lead lap. Vince, Tony's coming your way.
Tony Kanaan has complained earlier in the race about having a lack of straightaway speed, but when you get in the draft, you can make up for that lack of speed, but what you cannot afford are mistakes on pit lane. This is where the crew goes to work. Jeff Simon on the outside front. The tires are on, fuel is in. They now have stalled. They didn't get the right front on. Simon has to come back out with the gun. So these are the mistakes on pit lane that we talked about that ultimately cost your team.
17.5 seconds, and here comes our race leader with 76 laps to go. That means he's not going to be able to go all the way.
Okay, Dan, guys are set up. Somebody give me some room here. He's behind us.
So as he comes down pit lane, Jack Arute, he's coming your way.
And watch, because his teammate Dan Wheldon is laid out, so Dixon will make what they call a wide entry. Ricky Davis and company will go to work, changing the Firestone tires. As we said, fuel going in at 3 gallons a second. The tires are done. The fuel is filled. Directly behind him, Wheldon comes in for service now, but the green flag stop is completed with your leader as we are beginning to cycle through with green flag pit stops. And there's Ryan Hunter-Reay as he's completed his stop as he entered in 2nd place, guys.
Yeah, Ryan Hunter-Reay was right behind, so he comes in, makes his stop. And that means right now, Ryan Briscoe is again shown as your race leader. Here comes Helio Castroneves. Whoa! And Milka Duno almost slides into the race leader and then almost slides up to the wall.
Almost takes out John Andretti through that whole maneuvering.
Helio, Jack is in Helio's pit.
Yeah, I'm glad you figured it out, Marty. I don't want to be considered as good as Helio Castroneves. He lost the draft, fellas, so what they did is they just did, as you saw, a fuel and go. They wanted to get him back, but the reason he dropped off the pace and got lapped, lost the draft. That's how critical this is. You lose it, and it takes you a long time to find a dance partner.
Well, right now, Ryan Briscoe's got a 4-second lead over Vitor Meira. Those 2 cars right behind him are lap vehicles. And Meira a little bit further back. There he is. He's got some lap traffic he's going to have to deal with. Now, these guys pitted 48 laps ago. And it still amazes me how the complexion of this race just seems to keep changing. Looks like Meira's peeling off, and he is now going to make his pit stop. So with 72 laps to go, everybody's going to have to make one more stop.
It's going to be a splash and go for sure at the end.
So as he locks him up, did he get it underneath the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit in time? We'll find out a little bit later from IndyCar officials, but Brienne, he's there.
He's pulling in right now. No expected changes on the National Guard car, just tires and fuel, hoping to get him back out there. Remember, Panther Racing still the winningest team here in Texas.
He is one of 5.
Clear the fast lane. Clear the fast lane.
He is one of 5 cars still on the lead lap if he can get back out in time before going a lap down to Ryan Briscoe. And now Briscoe looks like he is peeling off. 50 laps since his last pit stop. So obviously maybe Team Penske says, well, we could have gone a little further, but maybe tires are the issue. He'll try and get down to the 60-mile-an-hour speed. So when Briscoe pulls in, Scott Dixon should take over the race lead. There he is on the right side. Jack, he's coming your way.
And Marty, it's really not a case of tires. It's a case of handling. Remember, we told you that Ryan Briscoe, when they put that new wing on in the front, they didn't make the right adjustment. They just took a half wing out. They feel like they want to give Ryan Briscoe as many laps as possible to try and run to the front. And that was the case.
All right, thanks for the update, Jack, as he goes back out onto the racetrack. And it is now Scott Dixon in front of Marco Andretti by 3.5 seconds. Then it looks like Ryan Hunter-Reay will end up in third after everything cycles through. There you see a pack of cars, 4 of them there. Most of them are lap vehicles. And as we go on board with Scott Dixon, we'll step aside. Can Dixon win for the 3rd time this year? Come back and find out. Back here at Texas Motor Speedway, that's some of the action we've seen tonight. And there is our race leader, Scott Dixon, in the target red number 9. And just went around Danica Patrick, putting Danica 2 laps down in, or pardon me, 1 lap down in 10th position. Well, we're going to take next week off on the IndyCar Series, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. Be sure to join us on ABC for the Ethanol IndyCar 250 at Iowa, presented by Iowa Corn. You'll see it Sunday, June 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we've got a yellow on the racetrack. 63 laps to go. Do not know. I'm looking around the track. I don't see any damage or anybody into the wall.
Well, Marty, this will be interesting because by my calculations, if we were running green from that last pit stop everybody did, we'd probably be 15 to 18 laps short of fuel. So now with this situation, depending on how many laps it is, will that be enough to get them to the end?
All right, well, we're going to step aside for a break. We'll be back in time for pit stops if everybody wants to take a look at that time. Back here at Texas Motor Speedway, this time by, there'll be 60 laps to go. That means we're within the window, and guess what? Race leader Scott Dixon is coming in. Here's our ethanol triple pits. Vince, Marco Andretti's in your area.
Marco Andretti and Ryan Hunter-Reay both have had stellar runs today, but it all goes for naught if they don't take care of the pit stops here. Marco in the middle, Hunter-Reay at the bottom. Clean so far. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Leader wanted to make a chassis change. They decided not to last minute. It's only Firestone Firehawks and 22 gallons of ethanol for Scott Dixon. Meanwhile, Dan Wheldon has a bit of a problem, but he pulls out. Because now it's a Penske Tango as the whole crew of cars are going down in turn 1, guys.
Well, we had a total of 9 cars on the lead lap according to scoring when we came in. You can see Helio Castroneves. He picked up 1 off of the race off pit road, and everybody else in the top 5 positions, the way they came in or the way that they came out. So right now that will sort everything out. I think when everything gets sorted out, at least for right now, Vitor Meira could have the race lead. We'll double check on that and let you know. Don't forget that we'll be back in 2 weeks. Join us on ABC for the Ethanol IndyCar 250 at Iowa, presented by Iowa Corn. That's Sunday, June 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, we now have a total of 15 cars on the lead lap. Vitor Meira is the race leader. Want to talk about him in just a second. He stayed out, did not pit. His last pit was 17 laps ago. The 5 that got back on the lead lap because they did stay out: Danica Patrick, Buddy Rice, Ed Carpenter, AJ Foyt IV, Will Power, and Enrique Bernoldi. And no start again as they come out of 4.
Well, and the reason for that is that when the pace car pulled in, Vitor Meira really accelerated down the front stretch through turns 1 and 2, slowed down into 3. And what ended up happening is you end up with an accordion effect with everybody sort of getting up there and ramped up towards turns 3 and 4. We're also getting a report that possibly the 2 car here, A.J. Foyt the 4th, has possibly even touched the wall. Oh, if he didn't, boy, he's close to it. He's getting a little cozy there.
I don't want to get any closer, let's put it that way.
He's going to white wall those Firestone tires and make them more magic rings.
So now the green flag does fly, and we're back racing with 52 laps to go this time by. And look at that log jam in the middle. That is Tony Kanaan. It's Mira, Dixon, Andretti, Hunter Ray, and Dan Wheldon. That's your top 5 with Tony Kanaan 6.
Now, as we had that yellow, we talked about the cars were short by about 15 or 18 laps on fuel. Mira decided to stay out, and hopefully he might be able to make it to the end, but I doubt it. I think he's still going to be about 8 or 10 laps short.
That's Ryan Hunter-Ray you were on board with just for a second. He is going underneath Marco Andretti for 3rd position. Now he's looking at Dixon for 2nd, and he's doing this on fuel only. They did not change tires. And he's got the position.
Absolutely, and all that group from Mira backwards, remember, they all pitted. They have no fuel worries, do not have to pit before the end of the race. They're good to go.
Look at the battle, the 3-car battle behind.
Outside, outside, on the right rear, outside. Still there, still in your right rear.
All this action going on at 212 miles an hour, 214 at one point.
Still there.
Vince, you've got more?
I just want to correct just one thing, Marty. Ryan Hunter-Ray took tires but no fuel. They knew they could get a stop quicker by taking tires only, counting on the fact that everybody's going to have to stop for a splash of fuel.
All right, thanks for the update. We had it switched around, what we were reported to up here. Good job, Vince. Jack, you've got more on Dixon?
Yeah, guys, I hate to tell you, but Scott, you're dead wrong about some of the top 5 cars that pitted. Take a look at the guy running 3rd. Scott Dixon was running a lot of laps. Here's what the deal is for Dixon. He's been told he must make 3.8 miles to the gallon. Now, Dixon is the ethanol meister. He's able to do that. But right now, they feel like he's going to have a splash and go before the end of this race. My, how those extra 50 kilometers are going to come into play in this event.
Meanwhile, Vitor Mira continues out in front of Ryan Hunter-Ray by just about 1/10 of a second. Look at this as they go back down the back straightaway. What a log jam we've got with about 47 laps to go. You know, Vitor Mira, we mentioned the fact it's, 82 races since he has won in the series. He talked about it with us.
I have to keep trying, and it's not a matter if I can or can't, because I think it's really obvious that not only myself but the team can. It's gonna happen. I mean, I don't know how to really. I answered this question so many different ways, but the reality is always one. It's gonna happen, and I'm waiting for it, and it's just gonna be a matter of time.
Is today the day? Right now, he has got a ton of traffic behind him. Brienne, what's the fuel strategy?
Marty, well, they would love nothing more than a really, really long yellow right now, but of course he will have to come back in. He cannot make it the distance on the fuel he has right now. They are expecting him to come in around lap 215 or 216. He will, of course, need fuel, and just in case, they've got one more set of sticker tires if they need them.
That would be about 13 laps short of the finish. We run 228 here in the Bombardier Learjet 550. But right now, he continues to hold station and hold off Ryan Hunter-Ray. 3rd place, Scott Dixon. Then it drops off a little bit further back to Elio Castroneves. And then Tony Kanaan rounds out your top 5. Marco Andretti is 6th. Ryan Briscoe 7th, Dan Wheldon 8th, Hideki Mutoh 9th, and Buddy Rice is 10th. A little bit earlier this week, Elio Castroneves had the chance to go out and check out practice with the Dallas Cowboys. Terrell Owens ends up not getting the ball that time, so they send in courtesy of Jerry Jones. A new receiver. Tony Romo says, take him deep. I'll throw it right to you. Don't drop it. Elio looks outside, comes inside. Great job. Signs the helmet, and Elio gets a jersey, which looks like about 7 sizes too big.
Put a couple of them in there.
All right, we get back to the action here. It is Vitor Meira still in front, but look at that side-by-side right there. A little bit further back, Marco Andretti and Ryan Briscoe. Marco now trying to track down Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan with 38 laps to go. This was a car, if you were with us earlier, you know that they have been struggling all weekend long with it. And Vince, here he is again in the top 5.
Well, I think it's just a testament to Tony Kanaan. Every time it seems like this car is off, just as it was in Milwaukee last week, Kanaan soldiers it home to a strong finish. He was 3rd last week in Milwaukee, and they said that was almost like a victory considering the car they were working with. True again tonight, but he's been able to keep it in the draft and keep toward the front. But right now, Marty, everybody is playing the fuel-saving game. They all say they're going to have to stop, at least as far as Kanaan and Andretti and Hunter Ray are concerned. They're all going to have to stop inside of 10 laps. They want to conserve as long as they can, not knowing what kind of yellow they might get, but they don't have enough to get there, as Danica Patrick now heads to pit lane.
And Danica, her last pit stop was 51 laps ago. So all of a sudden, the fuel strategy starts to play out. She stayed out to get back on the lead lap, did not get the yellow she needed, Scott.
And what usually ends up happening in this situation is that you end up possibly going down a lap.
Vince, you got more on Danica?
Well, it's been a struggle for Danica Patrick. Remember, they had the issue in the pit lane on the early stop. They had some handling problems today as well. It has not been the kind of race that she was hoping for, as her teammates have all done particularly well, with Hideki Mutoh, Marco Andretti, and Tony Kanaan all in the top 10.
Yeah, it's Kanaan 5th, Andretti 6th, and Mutoh in the 9th position. And Danica is now 1 lap down because of the green flag pit stop. She is running right now in 16th position. We have a total of 14 cars on the lead lap, the last car being Will Power. Now with 33 laps to go, one of the guys we haven't said much about was Buddy Rice, as you see the side-by-side action still going on. There is Buddy, as he has worked his way up to the 10th position.
Very small team with Dreyer and Reinbold, not the resources that the big teams have as far as going to the wind tunnel and all the development work. Buddy Rice, the 2004 Indianapolis 500 champion, very talented driver. The team is building and growing over there. I think somewhere in the top 10 at this event is almost like a victory in one sense for that team.
Well, he was 8th at Indy and 10th last week at Milwaukee, and here's Ed Carpenter now coming into pit lane, Vince.
Ed Carpenter on the lead lap, but remember they had that long pit stop once before. They would be in a lot better position than they are now as they come in for their final stop. It's a clean stop this time. They make a wing adjustment, and off goes the 20 of Ed Carpenter.
But Ed will probably, as everyone else has under the green flag stops, gone a lap down. And there is your race leader, Vitor Meira. Now it has been 40 laps since his last stop. There is 2nd place, Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's got Scott Dixon all over him, and here comes Dixon underneath him. So Dixon takes over the spot, and Marco Andretti going way high. And almost got into the gray enough to hit the wall.
Oh, he keeps pushing the envelope there. It's almost like running up on the berm on a dirt track. He just keeps going higher and higher. For a group that's supposed to be trying to save fuel, they're still running 211, 210 miles an hour. Then you seem to drop down to 208. It'll be interesting to see if that's enough fuel for this group just to make it all the way to the end.
While all this continues, we're getting ready for more basketball action. ABC's your destination for the NBA Finals. The series continues tomorrow night. The Lakers try to even the score with the Celtics in Game 2. It's the NBA Finals on ABC tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern. Meanwhile, there's the battle for 2nd place. Scott Dixon up ahead by 1.8 seconds. Vitor Meira. Can somehow this team pull out their first win for this guy? Stay with us to find out. Back here at Texas Motor Speedway, the great American Speedway, and it has been another great night of racing for the Indy cars. The 19th time that the cars have run here. Take a look at our lap leaders, 6 total, and total lead changes, 20 of them. Helio Castroneves still the leader with 85. Scott Dixon has 51 in the bank, and right on down through to Marco and Bruno. You're on board with Dixon right now as he is in 3rd place, trying to track down Marco Andretti. Andretti got around him on the high side. They're both chasing Vitor Meira. Now it has been 46 laps since his last pit stop. Now 47 as he just goes by the stripe. Everybody else has 11 laps in hand on those lead cars right behind him. Take a look at his career when he has been in the race lead.
Very impressive driver. Always liked his style of driving. Very smooth. Very honest on the racetrack, does not get into any confrontations with anybody, and you can always know that he's going to treat you very fair.
8 times he has finished second in his IndyCar career. He has yet to win. Of course, the last time being at the Indianapolis 500, where he finished second to Scott Dixon. Take a look at the 2 Penske cars. They think better of the side-by-side routine and fall back into line. It's Briscoe in front of Helio Castroneves. That's lap traffic behind him. Meanwhile, up front, you see there's the battle for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th position. Word from pit lane could be that Vitor Meira will be stopping this time by, so he will surrender the race lead. He was hoping for a yellow. Doesn't look like they're going to get it. And yes, it looked like Meira did peel off to head down into pit lane. And there he is, so now he will surrender the race lead, Brienne.
Marty, it's a long way down, hoping to keep underneath the speed limit on pit lane. It will be tires and fuel only for Vitor Meira. There was some debate about whether or not to take tires at all. They decided to go with safe over speed this time by. And oh, there was a bit of a delay getting him out. Lost precious time there, guys.
It sounded like he was still in neutral.
Just revving the engine up and certainly didn't get out. That will cost him a little bit of time here, but if everybody else does have to pit, then he hopes to make that back. And the driver can make up some time when he leaves pit lane. You need a great out lap, and that means getting the car back up to speed as quickly as possible.
All right, let's reset the leaders for you. It's now Marco Andretti, Scott Dixon in 2nd, Ryan Hunter-Reay in 3rd, Ryan Briscoe in 4th, Helio Castroneves rounds out your top 5. Tony Kanaan is in 6th, Wheldon, Mutoh, and Vitor Meira is in 9th. But Meira is a lap down now, so he's going to need all these guys to stop. Marco Andretti, the last time he pitted was 41 laps ago. We still have 90 to go here. ESPN's presentation of the Bombardier Learjet 550 at Texas, brought to you by Castrol GTX. Stop sludge in its tracks with superior sludge protection. And in part by Honda, sole engine supplier for the IndyCar Series. You're on board with Ryan Hunter-Reay as he's got his hands full. Whoa, and it's getting awful dicey as the laps begin to wind down here. You can see Ryan Briscoe's gotten around him. And so now it is Andretti, Marco in front, Dixon, Briscoe now 3rd, Ryan Hunter-Reay 4th, and Helio Castroneves 5th. So let's check in on our race leader. As you can see, he's got almost a 2nd lead over Scott Dixon. Oh, he got a spin and a contact into the wall. It is the 36 of Enrique Bernoldi. Now, he was lap traffic. He is in 14th, 2 laps down. And I think he's the only car involved. We could just see the smoke when we changed the camera angle, and then you saw him come through the shot into the wall. Vince, what's this do to the race leader strategy?
Oh, Marco Andretti just got a huge break. They had just told him that he was going to have to pit about 3 laps from the end, and he did not take it well inside that helmet, I can assure you. I won't be able to repeat what he said, but he was not happy about the fact they weren't going to make it to the end. When the yellow came out, Ziggy Harkus got on the radio and told him immediately, that's what we needed. We can now go to the end. So they've gone to the fuel conservation level on the fuel intake. They just told him to slow down under yellow to save everything they can, but they do now believe they can make it to the finish. Jack?
Yeah, Vince, remember the guy right behind him, Scott Dixon, the current point leader? Well, he needed to make 3.8 miles to the gallon. He was precariously close to doing that. But now with this caution, he also will have sufficient fuel to go the distance. What about the car right behind Scott Dixon? There's Ryan Briscoe. Briscoe was the one that was actually before this caution sitting in the catbird seat. Roger Penske convinced him, Vince Welch, that this was going to go his way. Now he's just told him to stay focused. Vince?
Well, and Ryan Hunter-Reay, the theme for this team is focus forward. Don't worry about what's happening behind you. Don't worry about a bad break you may have caught during the course of the race. Focus forward. But remember, they took tires and no fuel before. They definitely have to stop, even with this yellow. That's going to be the bad news for the 17 ethanol car of Ryan Hunter-Reay. Jack?
And for Helio Castroneves, this was a godsend. This yellow flag will allow him and his crew chief and statistician and tactician will allow Tim Cindric to be able to give this guy the green flag to go full throttle. They were standing by, and Cindric had told them the only way we're going to be able to race for the lead is if we get a caution. They've now got it, Vince Welch.
Well, the big question for the 11 car of Tony Kanaan is whether or not they can make it on fuel. They do believe that they can now that they've gotten this yellow, but they were definitely going to have to stop before. That's how close the fuel mileage strategy game can be. One yellow flag near the end of the race can change the entire landscape of the finish. It certainly has at this point for Tony Kanaan. And look at that, running 6th on a day and a weekend where he thought his car was junk. Not too bad for Tony Kanaan in the 7-11, Jack.
I think you got to say the same thing, Vince, for the guy that's running in the 7th position. Remember, Dan Wheldon brought a black liveried car here with Polaroid on the side, only to crash it during practice. He only had a total of 6 laps before they dropped the green flag on this event. With an injured right ankle, he has persevered. They've made wing adjustments, and he finds himself now, Vince Welch, running in the top 10.
Well, and another driver in the top 10 tonight is Hideki Mutoh, and what a nice run it has been for the rookie in the Honda Dream Machine. Hideki Mutoh, it was the fastest qualifier at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, often overlooked because of this Andretti Green high-profile team, but Mutoh has done a terrific job tonight. Kim Green told me beforehand he's never run in this kind of traffic, this kind of wheel-to-wheel racing. He's a rookie. We're not quite sure what we're going to get. They've gotten a terrific performance for Mutoh tonight. Brian?
Well, it's a disappointing night so far for Vitor Meira, but even if things end right now, he'd still be in a top 10 finish. But the team has just gotten on the radio. John Barnes, race strategist and owner, has said, good job, buddy. You did a heck of a job out there on the track today. Guys?
And the reason for that, of course, is 1 lap down, the first car a lap down in 9th place. Had this yellow happened 5 laps earlier, Meira gets the break he needed. Instead, he is on the short end again.
Always the break that happens in motor racing, and sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works against you. I'll have to say that maybe Vitor Meira doesn't always get the breaks, but I believe his day will come because he has the speed, he has the team. Maybe just needs a little bit of luck to find himself in victory circle.
And you see as our camera sort of make our way back, that's where he is. But again, he's a full lap behind the race leaders. And a tough night for the Delphi National Guard team. And we're getting word now that it will be 1 to go this time by. And it looks like for the first time in quite a while, we'll have a restart where all of our top 5, top 6 actually, will be nose to tail.
And the interesting thing is we look at Rinaldi's car on the hook there, getting towed in. The fastest race lap for Marco Andretti is 215 miles an hour. The fastest race lap for Scott Dixon has been 213. Will Marco Andretti be able to bring that speed back up again in this restart? That's going to be interesting to see if he's still got that.
So the lights go out on the pace car, which means 1 to go until we go back to green flag racing. So we'll have 9 laps when we come by next time to find out who's going to take home the 6 guns, the 10-gallon hat, the first prize check here at the Great American Speedway. It will be Marco Andretti, Scott Dixon, Ryan Briscoe, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Helio Castroneves. That's your top 5. And already going into 3, Marco's on the hammer. Green flag's out. The shootout in Texas is on.
Now remember, Scott Dixon does not have the best restart gears in. He's got the best gears to go off and run high speed when the car gets up and going, and momentum is with him. So will he be able to hold those guys back and then start to use that 4th, 5th, and 6th gear to catch up to Marco?
On board with Ryan Hunter-Reay. That's Briscoe in the 6th. And there's Briscoe's view as he's trying to track down 2nd place Scott Dixon. From 2nd place back to 3rd and 4th. Oh, that makes me dizzy. Take a look at Ryan Hunter-Reay side by side with Briscoe. Ooh, it's getting close again. It's money time. And Ryan completes the pass.
And Briscoe so close to the wall on the exit of turn 4.
Ryan able to keep the car down low. Briscoe's got that 2nd groove. A little further back is Elio Castroneves. Look at this. Here comes Dixon. He's looking inside Marco. Marco tries to shut the door. Now he runs up the hill.
Remember, Marco didn't seem to be able to run that low line.
Outside.
And that's what you need to have if you're going to hold people back.
That was not a real positive look on Dad's face. That is Emma, Scott Dixon's wife, and here comes Ryan Hunter-Reay. They found the opening under. Oh no! Crash! Hard contact between Ryan Hunter-Reay and Marco Andretti. Everybody else makes it through. But a tough end here with now 5 laps to go for those 2 drivers. And there is Scott Dixon, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to get this cleaned up in 5 laps.
No, it's a shame for Ryan Hunter-Reay, because for him, what a great run he had today. A great, strong driver. Could be an excellent finish. Disappointing for him.
Delphi safety crew checking on Marco Andretti. We'll wait to find out. Vince, have you heard anything?
I just heard a quick communication on the radio with Marco Andretti when Ziggy Harkis, who handles his strategy here in the pit lane, contacted Marco, and Marco, and I quote, my knees. So we'll keep an eye on the security or the safety crew and see how gingerly they work with Marco Andretti to remove him from the race car.
Michael Andretti, of course, concerned. Let's go back and take a look at this. We'll see how this unfolded with Ryan Hunter-Reay trying to make the pass down low. Ryan's okay. Looks like Marco's starting to come out now. Take another look.
As everybody's starting to move around, you see Andretti just starting to want to protect his position just a little bit, and then Ryan Hunter-Reay gets those left set of wheels down on the white line, the hinge point between the flat and the banking, and then the car just starts to walk itself up and drives himself into Marco, and then both of them go off towards the wall. Just that little bit of a flick on that back end of the car. Remember, we're at 210 to plus 15 miles an hour average speed around here. These guys are not that quick enough to be able to catch it when it does something like that.
We said at the very top of our broadcast how fast things can happen here. It can be dangerous at these speeds. And Marco, in this case, could do nothing, as Ryan just got loose. Now let's look forward from Ryan Hunter-Reay's car. We'll just sit out, let you listen. It doesn't sound like we have the audio there.
See, as we came out of turn 2, Marco starts to try and protect his position, starts to move down towards the lower side, going into turn 3, does not leave very much room for Ryan Hunter-Reay whatsoever. Now here we go, let's watch again.
Wow. That's the view from Scott Dixon. And we're still waiting for word from the Delphi safety team on Marco Andretti here with 3 laps to go. We're getting word from race officials that they will not be able to get this crash site cleaned up in time. So in the 2nd week in a row, we're going to have a finish under yellow. And that, of course, will get the debate going. What should you do? In fact, it was talked about a little bit earlier this week. I mean, some people have had some some different ideas, not necessarily a green-white checker.
Oh, and you go through and ask a lot of the drivers, and the drivers that are getting the advantage of having the yellow situation like this say, hey, just leave it as it is. And some say, well, we'd like to go back, and if you're in second or third, have a shot at maybe having you know, a run at first. But the other debate that will happen here between the two drivers, Ryan Hunter-Reay and Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Reay will say, hey, Marco, you didn't need to drive me down towards a low lane that much going into turn 3. You should have given me some more space. And Marco Andretti will say, hey, you should have maybe backed off it a little bit and not put yourself on that hinge point on that white line between the 24-degree banking and the flat track, and then have yourself have your car shoot up towards mine and take us both out of the race. So that'll be an interesting discussion between those two drivers.
Not necessarily having a green-white checker like NASCAR, but would you like to see some kind of formula come up with where we would finish under green?
Yeah, you know, and as a driver, you know there's going to be days where it works in your favor, days where it doesn't. The other discussion going around the garage area a lot of times is taking out the lap cars and on a restart, maybe with 10 laps left to go, so everybody can have a shot at winning the event in the top 5 or 10. That's the other discussion that seems to be going around.
White flag is out. Let's check in with the winning man who calls the shots on the 9 car, Mike Hull.
And Mike Hull is still talking his driver around on this final lap, trying to give him the, well, what you would call the encouragement. But one of the things that they just talked about, fellas, is the fact that they've learned their lessons in terms of fuel conservation. You gave the mandate that he had to make 3.8 miles to the gallon in the last run. Just moments before that caution, you weren't sure, and then all of a sudden you were ready to give him the green light.
We knew if he did his job, he'd be able to use full rich position with 3 laps to go. That's what we were trying to do. We weren't trying to race with those guys until it counted. We figured that Marco would have to splash because he was out front. We didn't know about the other guys, but we knew we could race those guys in that rich fuel position at the end. So he did a heck of a job tonight.
And guys, the great thing he said, the engineers need an IV right now. They had to do a lot of ciphering, as they say.
Well, here comes the checkered flags, the 13th time in his career, 3rd time this year, and his first win at Texas for Scott Dixon under the yellow. It's the 2nd win for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Mom's loving it. The other winner for Chip, Jeff Ward, back in 2002. Some other great runs. Well, let's give a tip of the nod to Hideki Mutoh. He ties his career best. He finishes 6th. Good run for the rookie. We'll talk to the winner when we come back here at Texas. Well, there is Scott Dixon. He should be very used to this routine. He's in victory lane once again, Brienne.
Marty Reed, can you say domination? Scott Dixon will make it over here to get a word with him. This is his 13th career win, 3rd win this season. Gets congratulations from his team. Scott, one question. What's your secret?
Well, I don't know. We just we had a bit of luck tonight. There were so many things going on with strategy, and I got to give it to the Target guys, man. They were so good on the pits. The engineers did a great job, and what about my teammate coming back through there? That was pretty big. So a good day for Target, great day for the championship points, and we won at Texas finally. I can't believe it.
Talk us through the pass that got you the lead there.
Yeah, everybody was trying to save fuel. It was coming down. We were probably going to be a little bit short. Marco was trying to save his as well, and then early on we had sort of had a few altercations, I think, going into one, and maybe he'd been told to give me some room, and he left it wide open. I think his car was good all night on the outside, but I got to thank him for giving me some room as well. But doesn't matter. The pass we came, I'm just a bit sad for the fans. You know, we had to end on a caution, but great day for us.
Scott Dixon got it done in Texas. Vince?
Well, it was a top 5 caliber race for Ryan Hunter-Reay tonight, but that ended on that late race incident with Marco Andretti. Was he forcing you down, or did you hit the white line and scoot up?
Both. You hit them both on the head. He gave me the bottom line on the backstretch, and that means you got the bottom line going in the corner. And then he really turned in early. So I went to go avoid contact to him. Next thing I know, I'm on the white line. I mean, I don't know. You do that on a road course, not on a super speedway. He just pushed me right down onto it. So we had a great car. We were going to break through tonight. It was finally going to happen for us.
Were you in the medical center with Marco? Did you have a chance to talk to him about how he may have felt about it?
Well, yeah, he said, you know,
you know, that he gave me enough room, and I didn't feel he did. I felt I was moving out of the way, moving down to avoid contact with him a bit, and just got the car unhinged. It's a shame. These guys did a great job all night. They really deserve something. We all did. So super bummed.
Heartbreaking night for Ryan Hunter-Reay. Jack?
Well, the guy that had a pretty good shot at seeing all of that, Helio Castroneves, when you saw it unfolding in front of you, you did what?
Well, the only thing I learned from last year, you know, instead of back off because of the safety walls, the cars normally come at you. So I'm like, I kept going, and thank God we were able to miss. I mean, my guys did again. I mean, they did a fantastic job. These guys,
man.
Sorry, but I mean,
Crazy stuff.
It was tough. We try everything, and those guys, I mean, hats off. I'm sorry about the.
Yeah, let's talk about the drive-through penalty for a moment.
I mean, as soon as I came really fast, and it locked the right front. Instead of going straight, I decided to let it go the brake, and probably was a mile an hour faster. Well, it is a penalty, and I had to pay, and unfortunately pay on a green flag, which was the worst condition as possible. But my guys, I call them Black Knights, so they did a great job. That's they're amazing, and hopefully we're gonna keep going. Positive thing is another top 5.
Yeah, not even a top 5, Marty. How about runner-up?
That's right, and that means about a 35-point margin between first and second place. Scott Dixon has 284 points, and there is Helio in second, Dan Wheldon third, Tony Kanaan, and Ryan Briscoe. That rounds out your top 5 as Briscoe picks up 3 more spots as he finishes in third, right behind Helio Castroneves. All right, let's go back and show you what happened one more time, because we've got an update on Marco Andretti's condition. Going down into the corner, into turn number 3, contact with Ryan Hunter-Reay, and they both slammed the wall hard, and you heard from Vince Welch's report, my knees, my knees. Well, the x-rays are negative on his knees. As we take another look at it, this is a real hard hit for both these guys. And Vince Welch has caught up with Marco just outside the medical center.
Well, Marty, with Marco Andretti. Marco, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, just bruised my knees a little bit. You know, I feel bad for the whole Blockbuster crew. You know, we were running so well, you know, as was the ethanol car, you know, and I feel kind of bad for both of us. But, you know, the fact is there's some guys you can run close and there's some guys you can't. You know, he clearly hit the white line, and that's that. It's unfortunate, I think. Again, yeah, we run well, but to me that doesn't matter. We need to start bringing home results. So very disappointing.
Can you put in context the frustration of 4 DNFs in 7 races?
Yeah, especially with 5 to go, you know. That's 2 in a row now, and it's very disappointing.
Marco Andretti. Marty?
Yeah, the reference to 2 in a row is 2 crashes in a row, and as we see the celebration at the one end, your comments?
I think they'll both go back and look at this tape and realize they both could have done something that could have avoided that, and they would have been second and third instead of the respective 19th and 20th where they finished here today.
Well, we tied the record for 8 cautions here, the second time we've done it, and that's going to do it for us here on what was a great night of some racing. We'll be back in 2 weeks, June 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern, on ABC for the Ethanol IndyCar 250 at Iowa. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Coming up next, the NASCAR Nationwide Series again from Nashville. Congratulations to our winner, Scott Dixon, for the 3rd time this year. For our entire ESPN crew, this is Marty Reed. Till we meet again.